who's going in. They're buried in rubble. The handsome journalist sticks his microphone right on in to a hole in the collapsed building. He reaches down to a woman buried alive under concrete chunks. Hand her a bottle of water, you jackass! That's what Mom shouts at the TV. Yeah, ask her how she is, you jackass! Do something! I'm on the outside, looking on the inside. I'm out, looking in. I'm on the outside. Hand her a bottle of water, looking on the inside. Looking in. Out, looking outside. They sure look pretty, diamonds and raindrops on a red carpet. If I was a raindrop, I'd go on in. There's no drinking water for poor daughters close to the equator, far from champagne and binge. If I was the earth, I too would split open till everybody was listening.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thank you so much for joining us for this installment of Tell Me a Story, a City Lore Salon with Annie Lanzillotto and special guests. Today, we have an international lineup of young women artists. Mavera Rahim and Paola N Egipciaco-Cruz study at NYU in Professor Jan Cohen-Cruz's class, Theater and Social Engagement. Mavera and Paola are also interns for Annie Lanzillotto and Street Cry. The themes of this episode grew out of our conversations about women's lives all around the world. From battles for equal rights amendment to the front line in Texas around women's reproductive rights legislation, to women and girls in Afghanistan, trying to stay safe, trying to get out. We talked about how women survive and cope with circumstances from strict religious societies to natural disasters, how young women create spaces of health, fun, and joy. What lengths do women go through to define their lives? Where and when are women's lives valued and safe? As we hear perspectives from these young women, another through line emerges. What brings young women to New York City? What has always brought young immigrants? Here, today, Fulbright fellowships and opportunities for higher education. 100 years ago, the promise of factory jobs. We'll start this hour with a call to action. We'll watch a 1-minute video inviting us all to participate in helping build the memorial for the Triangle Factory Fire of 1911, which is now an NYU building. Then we'll hear from Paola N Egipciaco-Cruz, who makes her poetry debut today. She is a writer and NYU grad student who was born and raised in Sabana Grande, a small town in Southwest Puerto Rico. Paola believes in the power of self-organization as a form of governance. Mavera Rahim and Natasha Jozi are co-founders of the Being Body podcast. Mavera describes herself as a Pashtun girl passionate about creating spaces of vulnerability and honesty with other women. Mavera is from Lahore, Pakistan, and is a Fulbright scholar studying at NYU. Natasha Jozi is a performance artist from Pakistan currently living in Munich. She is interested in the intersection of science and the spiritual body. She is the founder of House Limited, which promotes performance art in Pakistan and generates discourse around South Asian identity. Mackenzie Kwok makes her Zoom music debut today. Mackenzie is a Cantonese Shanghainese American singer-songwriter who grew up in San Francisco and now lives in New York. She is also City Lore's communications manager. Mackenzie is passionate about breaking the silence Asian women face when it comes to sexuality and violence. And Annie Lanzillotto, in addition to being the host of Tell Me a Story, is a beloved collaborator of City Lore. Annie podcasts as Annie's Story Cave. She's the author of 4 books, singer-songwriter of 4 albums, and has performed hundreds of shows. Annie was a founding board member of Remember the Triangle Fire Coalition. Hey, Annie. Annie, where are you? And are you there?
Where do you think I am? I'm still inside. I'm still sheltering in place alone. What do you think?
It's probably safe.
Doing outdoor walks. Outdoor walks.
Fresh air, sunshine. Hey, Annie, I'm gonna, ready? I'm gonna throw you the ball.
All right, nice and easy though. Take it easy, will you? Because you've been getting strong at this throw. All right, I'm backing up. Take it easy. All right, got it.
Great.
You're leaving welts on my hand. I need first aid. All right, I'm putting this over here.
Okay, great.
Only Steve knows what that is. See how the ball goes back and forth? Oh, Molly, I gotta feed the meter. Wait, before we get started.
Here's a quarter.
I don't want to get a ticket doing my own show. All right, give me that quarter. All right, got it. All right, so as we do this, I literally, Molly, prayed to the goddess of 1 hour. Very grateful to give me this hour with Molly and everybody. Let's make it the best hour we got. And thank everyone for being here today. I know it's a beautiful day, but whatever part of the world you're in, thanks for spending this hour together. So Molly, I think today is about, people becoming new New Yorkers, young women. And I thought, my friend Rosie Imperato, who's out there, and she's gonna come on in the open mic, she had this beautiful idea, which is today's November 20th. Coincidentally, November 22nd is the 112th anniversary of the uprising of 20,000. And Rose will tell us how that came to be. But 20,000 people were out in the street. I don't know, Rosie, maybe it was a labor strike. She'll tell us how it came to be. Rose's birthday happens to be November 22nd. So on her birthday, she's organizing a fundraiser where she wants to get 20,000 people to help build the memorial for the Triangle Fire, for the people who perished. And a lot of things in New York, when architecture changes, a lot of the times it's from big money top down. A lot of memorials, in today's Times, there's an article about billionaires wanting to build a glass multi-story enclosure on a building near Central Park. So the Landmarks Commission is in a big discussion. Who gets to change the city? Who gets to mark the city? Whose bodies mark the city? How does the city mark our bodies? Whose blood spills in the streets? Whose bones hit the pavement? This is a class issue. It's an immigration issue. The Triangle Memorial, the money's coming from the bottom up. There's not rich fashion designers giving millions of dollars for whatever reason. It's people like Rose Imperato, making it happen. So she's going to tell us about that. And I thought, Molly and I were talking, these things grow out of conversations, right, Molly? So it's like the show is one part of the conversation that's been going on. Today, I have 2 interns from NYU, and they're young women from other countries. So today, what brings young women to New York? Fulbright fellowships, scholarships. 112 years ago, what brought young women to New York? To the same neighborhood, right? To the neighborhood that NYU owns now. And it was factory jobs. And it was carrying ice and sewing, ways to just feed your family. So we're gonna start with 60 seconds of silence. But before we do, we're gonna bring in these young voices to say hello. So Paola, Mavera, Natasha, Mackenzie, please come on and say hello. Hi. Turn on your microphones, let your family and friends hear you.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Thank everybody for coming.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being here.
All right. Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna see 60 seconds of silence. We're gonna watch a short video made by Ernesto Martinez and Rose Imperato. And then I'll introduce people one by one. All right, Mackenzie, hit it. A moment of silence. Thanks, Mackenzie. All right, listen, everybody. I'm going to tell a story and then I'll call you in one by one, okay? All right, so I'll see you all in a few minutes. So first I want to tell you all out there, part of what we're talking about today is home. How do you make a home? Where do you go for home? This is the oldest key I got right here. Now, who invented the first key? Keys are thousands of years old. Some people say 5,000 years old. And I'm going to give you a good shot of these things on my neck, and I'll tell you about them later. 3 objects, a heart. Wait, that must have been noisy. A heart, an ankh, and a key. And I'm going to ask everyone to shut off your microphones for now. So a key, a heart, and an ankh. And the biggest thing about being a New Yorker and living on the ocean and being in a port of immigration, is that you never know who's going to come. You never know who's going to appear in the city. And, there's other ports around the world where this is true. Part of being a New Yorker to me is knowing how to help people when you encounter them. And that's a skill you got to have. So I'll tell you a couple of stories in that spirit. And the reason we tell stories in this venue is that I learned the hard way when my dear friend was shot dead by her brother, and her mother was 93 years old. This was during COVID, this was recent. And I'd sit with her mother at night outdoors, and she'd say, Annie, tell me a story. And she was shell-shocked. She was in a deep state of trauma. But I saw that night after night, by telling a story, like a Scheherazade, for that hour, it helped her get through the night and approach sleep, which was terrifying. So this has been a rough year and change, year and a half, whatever it's been for the world. And so this is our chance to share a few stories, and we've helped each other get through, these months this way. So one quick story I'm going to tell you, which illustrates this New Yorkerness, is I pull up into a gas station and I make quick friends with the guy pumping gas. His name's Muhammad. So 3 months later, he calls me and I heard trouble in his voice. I said, Muhammad, what's the matter? I said, what, do you got to move in with me? He says, can I? So I said, sure. I said, how long is it going to take you to put your stuff together? He says, 2 hours. I said, all right, I'll pick you up at the gas station in 2 hours. And a friend says to me, but how did this happen? She says, I don't understand. How? Take me through this step by step, break it down. How do you pull up into a gas station and a couple months later, the guy's living with you? So now the question bothered me because I thought, this is what being a New Yorker is, isn't it? Like helping immigrants, young refugees, isn't this the job of a New Yorker? But I realized in this time period with these alien words to me, like boundaries, personal space, and the whole lot of vocabulary, that this way of thinking is antiquated, concepts of sacrifice or helping people beyond your comfort. And I tried to break it down. I said, well, first, being a New Yorker means you got to know how to say hello, how are you, in 27 languages. That's the prerequisite to being a New Yorker. So when I pulled in the gas station, I said, hello, how are you, in his language. And that broke everything open. But, these things you can't really break down. There's no way to teach interaction, New York style interaction, or New Orleans style interaction. But I was thinking, this is who I've always been. This isn't the first time. And I'll tell you another story. 40 years ago to the day, and this is another November 22nd story, Rosie, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma on Thanksgiving break from freshman year in college. So I came home from break, had a little surgery on a lump on my neck, and was diagnosed. So it was this time of year, exactly 40 years ago. So when I went back to Brown, I had chemo to go. I had like a little bag with hypodermic needles and vials and, that kind of stuff. And, back then, I got to ask the young women today, What do career counselors, how do they evaluate you? So back then, I remember the career counselors were like, listen, there's only two kinds of people. There's people person, or you're good at math and science. And that's like the only two options. So after testing or whatever, in discussions, they said, you're a people person, which meant I should go to law school. You could speak and you could, write. And so go to law school. And I knew I could persuade people of anything because I had won debate contests and oratorical contests. In 7th grade, I had to argue pro-death penalty. And what I learned from that debate is I could persuade anybody of anything. I would say two things. One, Catholic school brainwashed me, but it wasn't all bad because the brainwashing was feed the naked, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, house the poor, right? That's Jesus in a nutshell, and maybe religion in a nutshell. So it wasn't all bad. So I went to Brown. I knew I was a people person. I was a little brainwashed from Catholicism. And I knew from these debates that I could persuade people of anything. So you might say I had a silver tongue off the Bronx streets. I tried to get into creative writing classes. Not so easy. Just because you get into the school doesn't mean you get into the classes you want. So I had to audition. So the auditions were like, they packed us in a room and the TA comes in, a graduate student, and writes a word on the chalkboard. So picture a stately room with beveled glass windows, looking out onto the college green. This building was in place since the Revolutionary War. It housed soldiers in the Revolutionary War. So we're talking 1700 brick and beveled glass, which beveled glass makes everything like a dream. So on the green, it's like you look out the window, it's like dreaming. The word she puts on the board is canopy. And the assignment is write on the word canopy, for an hour or whatever it was, she left the room. So it was a little perplexing, but I did it. I remember I had a vision about the canopy of the maple tree in the Bronx where I grew up. I used to just stare through the sky, the blue through the leaves, coming through the leaves. But I never got into a creative writing class. But on the main street in Providence, on College Hill, there's a street called Thayer Street. On the corner of Thayer and Angel was this street poet named Elias. And he dressed all in green, the color of the Prophet Muhammad. He had a Rastafarian long gray dreadlock beard and long gray dreadlocks. He was an elder, whatever age he was. He was a timeless spirit. And Elias stood on the corner and handed out his poems and burst into orations and recitations night and day. He might have even slept out there. We became quick friends. So the Northeast, as Paola's experiencing for the first time, gets cold. It gets cold and damp, right? It goes through your bones. Providence gets really cold. You get these moody gray skies. Elias needed a hot shower. Now, since I was on chemo, I had the privilege of having a single room in a freshman dorm. Very few people had single rooms. Most had doubles and triples. I also, for a few months, had off-campus housing with a couple of friends of mine. So for a while, I had keys to 2 places. So I gave my keys to the freshman dorm, not like this, but a key to Elias. And I said, listen, you need a hot shower? Go in the freshman dorm. You need to leave a few of your things in my room? Go ahead, leave them. So as you could imagine, not long after, I got a note from the freshman dean. He wanted to talk to me, and I got in big trouble. And I sat down with the dean, and he gave me a whole list of reasons why you can't give your keys to the freshman dorm to people. He said, we're getting complaints. People are complaining that men with bells are walking through the hallways of the freshman dorm. And I was very indignant. I said, no, only one man wears a bell. That's Elias. You know Elias. Everybody knows Elias. He stands on Thayer Street, handing his poems to all the students. What's the problem? He's our poetry teacher. He was teaching me more than any professor. I couldn't even get into a writing class. I considered buying Elias dinner and tea and peppermint tea as part of my tuition. he was my mentor. The dean, of course, convinced me of all the reasons I was wrong. And they had to do with private property, which is a strange concept. I mean, if I were to tell you, listen, I'm selling real estate, I'm going to sell you a piece of the sun. That sun's going to be with your family for generations. I'm going to sell you that piece of the sun. Now, if I were to do that, there might be people doing that already. Who knows? You might think it's a strange concept, but don't we already do that? We buy pieces of this planet. We buy air rights. We buy ocean rights. We buy waterfront rights. Everything's privatized. Who invented the first key? Who invented this key? Who invented the first key and lock thousands of years ago? I can tell you this, it's a class issue. No one poor invented the key and the lock, because to invent the key and the lock, you need something, treasure to lock away, or somebody to lock out, or somebody to lock in, or somebody to lock up. It's a class issue. And I was thinking recently, what if the dean and I had a different conversation? What if the dean said, listen, if you're the 1 in 5,000 kid that's going to give the keys to the homeless poet, to the freshman dorm, then let's have that conversation. Let's see, I'll look up an alumni who works in a mission, in the orphanage that Kip Kane, who started in Kenya. Let's get you an internship there. Or, in Port-au-Prince, there's a mission from the local church. Let's get you to go talk to those people. What if we had a different conversation where the dean said, know yourself? What the dean didn't know is I'm also, I think, 1 in probably 100,000 who still have Elias's poems. Here's one of his poems I found yesterday. Some handwritten and typed, some with doodads. They used to sell these little doodads to put around. You could see the embellishments. 4 artists. Here's his handwritten poem, and he called himself Street Prophet, Street Servant. Now, I want to say, if anyone out there went to Brown University in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, and you remember Elias, contact me. I want to know if anyone else kept his poetry. This is a handwritten artifact that's 40 years old. 40 years old. So here's to Elias, who taught me everything about writing wildly. We would sit up all night in the diners or Dunkin' Donuts and write on napkins. I loved writing on napkins because you open the panes and the napkin absorbs the ink, and you run out that big pen till you get another pen. Then you get it going and you fill up another napkin and you open the panes and you forget where you started or where you ended, but it doesn't even matter. So Elias, I owe a lot. And I want to tell you before I bring in the next guest, that this key, I want you to close your eyes for a minute. Okay, now open your eyes. This is a sentence. Now, I used to walk into poetry cafes, lesbian bars in the 80s and the 90s, and someone would say, I like your necklace. And I'd say, well, it's a sentence. What sentence is it? It's a worldview. If you want, take a screenshot, because I want you to think about this. These 3 objects, you could make a phrase, and the phrase is a worldview. What 3 objects do you see here? And I want you to put it in the chat, and we'll make it a little contest. So I'd walk in and, it was like a pickup line, right? I'd get in close and say, here, this is a sentence. What sentence do you see? What phrase can you make? So we're going to make that a contest. Put it in the chat. What sentence you think my necklace is? All right. Oh, Audrey, we got to quit. Wow, Audrey, we got a winner. We got a winner. All right, Audrey Kindred's the first winner. We have to see what the prize is. And if anyone else has another phrase you could make, which is possible, put it in the chat. We'll have more than one winner. All right, listen, I'm going to call Paola Egipciaco-Cruz, and she's making her poetry debut today. There she is. Ciao, Paola. ¿Cómo estás?
Yeah, I'm good.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm going to throw you the ball. I can't wait to hear your poetry. I'm so proud of you. Ready? Nice, easy papa.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to share 3 stories with you today, and I hope you like them and we can talk about them later on. The first one is called Islas. The second one is called Home. And the third, let me tell you a story. So here goes the first one, Islas. I am an island. Soy muchas islas. I am many islands, an archipelago. I was born in an archipelago, a Caribbean mess of islands. In Spanish, islas are female. They are treated as a she. La isla, las islas. The continents, Arabic he. El continente, los continentes. Just like Earth, islands are female named. La tierra, las islas. There's no difference between a female perceived body and an island. Both are objects to fight over, to possess, to own, to kill for. It doesn't matter the name of the island or of the woman. Someone will want to own them. I am an island, born on an island in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. Soy una isla. Sometimes I wonder where the island begins in me and where it stops, if it stops. I am an island. Soy una isla. I have a big on sale sign on my forehead. Se vende. I didn't put it there. It appeared it was forced. Las islas are always on sale. They get dismembered and broke into smaller bits. Buyers will appear. They will spend their checks. They'll become owners, and they will remind you of their ownership. My island, mi isla. No one gets to buy the continent, el continente. I am an island, an archipelago. I've discovered ways to find my home, mi casa. Thank you. And the second one is called Home, and here it goes. If I can't find the blue sky, I can't find my home. The first thing I saw in life were my mother's green eyes. I probably couldn't tell they were green back then, but that was the first house I knew outside her womb. Then I met the brown eyes of my father and my siblings, then my grandparents. Only my mother has green eyes. I was born 2 months early, a small bundle that fit in my dad's hands, my second home. I grew up sheltered, loved, the smallest of 3 siblings. The 5 of us created my third home, its foundation so strong that still stand 25 years later. Time passed, or I beat time away. The homes changed, transformed, and multiplied. One of the last homes I accepted was my body. I still fight to fix it, to avoid losing it. As long as I could find the blue sky, I could find my home. Blue has never been my favorite color, but it reminds me of the sky, of the sea. When I looked outside of my window, I could always see that blue. Sometimes that blue is lost to me, hidden behind dark clouds that shook my home, but the foundations were strong. When I couldn't find the blue skies, my body felt lost, broken, and I didn't feel at home. The gray clouds stole my belongingness and threatened to rip it apart. It's a funny thing, you see. Most of the days here are gray, but when the blue sky shines with the bright sun, I can feel the foundation stabilizing. Thank you. And the last one, it's titled, Let Me Tell You a Story. And I wrote a small epigraph for it. And the epigraph says, I want to share my home with you. I want you to feel the warmth of the people coming together in love, in pain, in anger. And here's how this story goes. I don't want to tell you about one specific event in Puerto Rico's history that marked me. I don't really think it was just one thing. It never is just one thing. I can share stories of pain, anger, and desolation. I can do that, and I wouldn't have any problems finding glimpses in my mind about it. But no, I want to try something else. I want to tell you about the joy, about the love and warmth. This is a bit hard because the sorrow is always trying to hold me down, but bear it with me. First, listen to my tale about companionship, about feeling determination around you, about being surrounded by bodies and feeling their presence. There's a particular strength in students who aren't afraid to walk a path of hardships for the university, for their country. Companionship melts the walls of your heart, warms you up, and gives you courage. Courage is an easy thing to lose in this country. You can get tired of it. But when there's someone by your side, you lose fear and embrace change. You can hold some other hands close to your heart, familiarizing yourself with each other's heartbeats. Or I can talk about self-organization, people coming together in times of needs. Hurricanes and earthquakes cause many needs, and you need to fix them. But it's not something you can do alone. Ideally, you'll have your government assistance. They will give supplies, and you'll survive. Death will be minimal. But we don't live in an ideal world. And when ideas are not enough, you'll have to take action. I want to tell you about communities coming together to build literal bridges to connect with another town, or about cutting trees to make way. They will share ice with you and cook for the whole community. All of that was with a smile on their faces. They will ask if you need anything. The next day, you'll ask that question to someone else. Someone will always need something in times of need. I can share this warmth with you. I'll make you feel it in your skin until you can see the burning streets of San Juan in a certain summer. And yes, you will feel that warmth, that determination, that anger. You'll trend hashtag with us and bath in the Puerto Rican rain. And you'll celebrate victories for more than 15 days, feeling the music serenading all the plazas. You see, Puerto Rican joy is that contagious. Thank you very much.
Bravo, Paola. Survivor and poet and scholar. All right, we have a lot to talk about, but let's call in. Let's you and me do this. I'll call Mavera, you call Natasha. Ready?
Natasha?
Right. Come on, Mavera, let's go. Here it comes. Easy.
Here's the ball.
All right, take it away, guys.
I love that we're talking about home and all these different places that we can call home, but when I think of my home, it's very scattered. It's not one place. It's not even one time. It's not even a specific moment, but it's a practice, and it's a set of actions. It's a set of things that I can make happen when I need to and when I don't need to. And when I think of a time when I wanted to be included in something, when I wanted to feel at home, I remember wanting to grow up very fast. And a big thing would be when family members would come over and all the older, the adults would all sit at a table and discuss, I don't know, important things that were not meant for children. Nothing explicit, just things that were not a part of our world, I guess. And I just couldn't, I just didn't want to let that go away. And I was allowed to drink tea, but not so much, not a whole cup, you know? So I would wait, I'd sit by and I'd watch all the adults sitting and having their discussion, and I would creep in a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And then I would wait until someone had abandoned their cup, and I would take a little bit of it and I would just pour it into a saucer quietly, I would sit and nod and listen to this whole conversation. And just while it's going on, I would take a little sip. And no one would really notice it at first, I think, but because I would only use abandoned cups. But eventually, I think they just got used to me sitting in the corner. And eventually, one or two of the adults would start pouring a little bit of the tea onto the saucer for me quietly. They wouldn't stop talking about what they were doing. They wouldn't even pay me attention, but just without really thinking about it, they just pour a little bit in the saucer, and I would creep up and I would feel like I wasn't really a child. I wasn't really an adult. I wasn't really included and I wasn't really excluded. I was something in between. I was making a space for myself where there wasn't one before. And it was an awkward space, and it wasn't one that really led me into anywhere. But it was a space that I wanted, and I saw it and I made it. And I think ever since then, that's been the way that I've been making my home. I've been finding these in-between spots, and there isn't really a place made out for me, but I try and carve it out one way or another, whether it's what I want at the end or not. And if I could give something to anyone listening to this, I guess I would tell them that, and especially as women, that awkwardness it's okay. Sometimes there's so many roles that we're made to fill out as women. And it's okay if we don't do that. It's okay if we just take up a space that wasn't meant for us and make it mean something for us. And that's how chai and tea in general and cups and saucers have been a part of my practice of making a home for myself, of using the little tools that even if you don't have a seat at the table, you can sip on the little saucer and move your way in whatever direction you want. So yeah, that's home as a practice for me. And home doesn't exclude awkwardness, and home doesn't exclude a process, and home doesn't even have to include other people. I don't think anyone included me in the conversation, but I wanted to be there, and it might have been uncomfortable, but I was there. And that's all you need. And I guess I'm going to bring it over to Natasha to discuss another object that both of us associate with feeling at home.
Just like Mavera, for me, chai, I completely understand where you're coming from, because in Pakistan, chai is something that tea is being our colonial history. Tea, we drink more tea than we drink coffee, and tea has become this sort of object that brings people together. A similar object for me, home, that reminds me of home is mehndi. Home for me is a sensory memory. Any sense that is ever activated, may it be a sense of smell, a sense of taste, the early time of the day in the morning, all of these experiences, which are extremely sensorial, invoke a sense of home. I basically moved out of my parents' house when I was about 21 years old, which is not that common. In Pakistan, you stay in your parents' house till you're married. And ever since that time, I've been working and traveling and becoming an artist and performing. And every year around Eid time, I really crave for mehndi, henna for another name for this, and always comes in this kitschy sort of packaging, and it looks like a cone. And for me, this object is of great significance, because what it basically does for me is that it invokes a lot of memories. I look at mehndi and I think of my mom. I look at mehndi and I think of the night before Eid, when we all would be sitting around the television waiting for the clergy to announce when Eid would happen. we would just be waiting, and it would be like 8 or 9 at night, and looking at the moon and waiting for the moon sighting for them to announce that tomorrow is going to be Eid. And what we would do is that all of us would make sure that we had all of our Eid preparations ready before Eid, because we would know about this at night. And mehndi was one thing that I always wanted on my hands as a kid growing up. Being the youngest in my house, there were always someone around me who would be busy or would volunteer to put mehndi on my hands. And I would always make it a point to have the mehndi on my hands the night before, because it is significant that however darker the color of the mehndi is, the more love you have in your life. And so I wanted the mehndi to stay on my hands the longest so that I had the most darkest color. And the night before Eid, my mom would always be busy cooking. I would hear the sound of the pressure cooker because she would be making chickpeas salad for the next day. And she would always be busy, not really, giving this importance as, for her, having mehndi on my hands was not as important as maybe preparing the house and everything ready for the day after. And I was a kid, and the Eid would normally come, normally sort of changes the time. But this time, when I was a kid, following the lunar calendars, it was coming in winters. And I remember I would snuggle in front of the heater, and I would wait for her while she was just preparing everything. And I would have this mehndi in my hands, and I would just sit in front of the heater, would probably fall asleep. And during the middle of the night, after she was busy and she was done with her work, she would take my hands asleep, and she would put mehndi on my hands. She would dry it in front of the heater, and she would wrap a cloth around it, and she would put me to bed. The day after I would wake up with this distinct smell of henna, which is a lot like eucalyptus or clove. And it would just be this very, very comforting smell I would wake up to. And I would not wait to unwrap my hands and go and wash off the mehndi and see what it looks like. And so for me, it was extremely, extremely important to have a sense of home whenever I'm away from home, because I go and I look for mehndi and I find reasons and excuses to put it on my hand and make these patterns on my hand, because I know that by smelling this, it feels like I'm right next to my mom. It's extremely comforting, and just how right now in Munich, I found a place to buy this. So thank you so much. We both have our patterns. It's generally a pattern like this. And thank you for listening to our stories.
All right, thank you. Mavera, let's see both your hands. You have designs on both hands?
Oh yeah, I have another one.
Wow, it's so intricate. I'd love to hear details about the intricacies. All right, very magical. All right, let's call in Mackenzie to the space. Thank you both. Ready? Mackenzie, we're all throwing. Here you go. You got to catch 3.
Oh God. Oh, they all grew.
They all grew. All right. Hey, Mackenzie, who's that behind you? Whose picture is that?
Who, this?
Yeah.
This is my good friend, Dolly Parton.
Dolly, tell us about her. Is she a guardian for you?
Oh, you could say patron saint, I would think. Dolly Parton, I just love how honest she is with her music and how unapologetic she is in her presentation. So those are some things that I want to embody here today with you all.
All right, and this is your Zoom debut, right?
This is my Zoom debut. Yes, it is.
All right, singer-songwriter Mackenzie Kwok. Can't wait.
All right, so I want to start by teaching you all a Chinese phrase. This says 吃苦. It means to eat bitterness. This says 女人很能吃苦. Women can really eat bitterness. Eating bitterness to me means quiet perseverance. It's something that's held up as a very feminine thing to do, a very noble thing to do. You kind of close your lips, you take it even though it's bitter, and you swallow it. And I want to tell you all that this story today is about eating bitterness and about silence. So I grew up in San Francisco, and when I was 14 or 15, the Giants won the World Series. It was the first win in about 50 years. And that day, school got let out early so that we could all go to this parade downtown. And so I walked from school to the parade. And when I was walking down Hayes Street on this big old hill coming down, I saw this man on the corner with no teeth and a shovel, and he watched me come up, and he looked at me, and he went in my face like, "How you doing, princess? You're so beautiful." And then I went, past him. He was far away. I had to really walk for like a good couple minutes in order to hear him and then walk by. And then I went to the parade and I went home. And another thing about me is that I am the oldest daughter. I am the oldest granddaughter. That puts me between child and adult. That means I have been perceived not only in the street, but also at home as an adult starting from the age of 13 in some way, shape, or form. I got home, I knew what was in the fridge for dinner. I knew what my siblings' schedules were like when my mom was at work. And I knew that when I leave the house sometimes, I am sexualized and treated as a "how you doing, princess? Come here, you," as some kind of object. And this is something that women face all the time, and that frankly a lot of men don't understand and don't feel on a day-to-day basis. And I remember telling my male family members about my reality of being very visible and harassed on a very regular basis for a very long time since I was a child. And one of them said, "Well, the silver lining is you're stronger because of it." So here's a song I wrote about being called strong. I'm not strong, it's just I have to be. 13 years of mediating, and it's getting heavy. What do you want me to say when I'm followed down the street? Thank you for the bitterness I eat. I don't know how to be angry. We do not complain out loud in this family. Just keep the peace, don't raise your voice, and don't make a scene. This is the bitterness I eat. I returned home when I was in preschool at the age of maybe 4 or 5. And my teachers were really concerned because at the park that day, a dog got loose and was running around. And a lot of kids were screaming and being afraid and crying. And I didn't. I was silent. I learned much later on that I had selective mutism. I could not say a word unless it was to very specific people at very specific times. It's a part of an anxiety disorder. And it goes very well with eating bitterness, because silence in that moment is what kept me safe. But silence doesn't always keep you safe. When I was in college, I was home for the holidays, and I was walking down Mission Street in San Francisco, and a man tried to touch my butt. And I remember walking by him and turning around like time slowed down. I just saw his hand kind of come up, and I looked over my shoulder, and it was like everything else became blurry and I just saw his hand. And then somewhere inside of me, this primal loud voice went, "No!" And he jumped, and my friends jumped, and I jumped. I didn't know I could make that. I didn't know I could yell like that. And he went like this, and he didn't touch me. And that's when I learned that maybe silence won't keep you safe. Maybe there's another way to do it. Still, silence was how I met the guy with the shovel. Silence is how I met a lot of inconvenience or emotional hardship. And so I wrote this song that I'm about to play to give some sound to the other times in my life where I have been silent. And this is a heavy one, so let's hold some space. I promise a nice one's coming after this. If I was afraid, I should have let you know. One of the things I left unsaid, I thought that you could use a little bit of me. Maybe not like that. And I said no, and you said, what do you say? And I said nothing. And you had your way. I don't recall what happened, where or when, but it was just the same as it's always been. And you know, a lot of us have been a hard piece of ass to an ugly man. And you said go, and as I turned to leave it, you said sorry. And I couldn't breathe, tried to say that I needed space. You called me stupid, and so I stayed. And I said no, and you said what do you say? And I said nothing. And you, oh you, oh you, oh you had your way. Of course, there's a lot of bitterness and anger, but there's also a great deal of sweetness, and that inspires a lot of songwriting for me. Because the first song I ever wrote was out of anger. It was one of the few moments where I felt anger. But I want to close because home is a feeling that feels very sweet to me and always moves me to play music and write and feel at home. So this is a song that I wrote when I really was feeling at home here in New York City. Chain reactions, it's the sound of the city, and we clovers and honey, roofside vines, and we're pretty. It's just I am in love with this, and I don't mean to be. Come sweeten the pot with me. She packs up hurriedly to join the sidewalk party, and me with love's hand on my knee, lighting up enough for me. In one of these days, Octavian by a small house somewhere in Queens, and sweeten the pot with honey. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, I'm crying over here, Mackenzie. Yeah, how do you feel? How do you feel now?
A lot. I feel a lot. Yeah, I feel like if I was watching, I would also be crying. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in the chat you're going to want to read. Kevin, who's Kevin Kwok? Is he
My
your,
dad. Hi,
your
Dad.
dad? Does Dad want to come say something?
You want to say something, Dad?
Kevin, you want to come? Let me see if I can promote Kevin. Let's hear from Kevin. And then we'll bring in Rosie. And Mavera, Paola, Natasha, Molly, come on back. Mackenzie, what a debut. What a debut. So there's a question in the chat. How do you young women coming to New York feel safe? What were you told to be safe in New York? And while you answer that, Paola, what do you do? We'll go to you first. I'm going to promote, I didn't hear from Dad yet, so I don't want to put him on the spot. I'm going to promote Rose and Ernesto to join us. So go ahead, Paola, tell us, what were you told to protect yourself? This is Paola's first winter. This is her first winter in New York. So let's hear it. What were you told to protect yourself?
I guess that feeling safe in New York, it's something that doesn't comes naturally to me, because I'm put in a lot of places that I've never knew before, like public transportation, being really cornered by other people of different genders and places, and having that space invaded, even if it's not done on purpose. So it's feeling safe for me has been really mentally challenging, because there are a lot of barriers broken every day. And at the same time, it allows me to be more certain and assertive about my own barriers, what things I don't want to be I don't want people to cross anymore. And I guess one of a funny advice I received from my brother when he was here the first week I came here, he was like, if you're going to cross the street, wait for the light to turn on for walkers, wait for the little man to appear, because if you get run over, you can sue. If you get run over and the light is red, you can't sue, and there's won't be a point. So that was interesting advice that I tried to follow. And a friend also gave me an alarm that I have here, like to carry it in my pocket, in my jeans, to pull out if anything happens. And I've never used it, thankfully, but it kinds of, even if I don't have to use it, it brings me peace. It's like something I have that makes me feel more confident. Yeah, that's me.
How does it work? How does that thing work?
You pull the thing and it's an alarm. It sounds, it rings quite loud.
What do they call that thing?
I don't really know, but a lot of people call it rape alarm. So that's something a bit creepy.
Okay, rape alarm. All right. All right. Mackenzie, could you help me promote Rose to panelist, Rose Imperato? I tried. And then Kevin said he will come on, which is great.
I'm on, Annie. You did it.
Where are you? I don't see you, Rose.
Oh, you're talking to the young women here.
No, Rose, put on your camera. Come on. Don't even make me say this twice. Where are you?
You know, Annie and I have known each other since we were 14, and this is how we still talk to one another. Oh my God.
Thank you for coming on. So Rose and Ernesto made the video that we saw. This is Rose's brainchild. This is her birthday, November 22nd, the uprising of 20,000. And I just want to say, Rose, you hear these young voices and what do you think? You think, oh, the girls in Triangle talking about bitterness and silence and muteness never got to speak, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So
Oh
tell
my
us, Rose, give us your reflection.
Thank you all. Oh my gosh, Natasha, Mackenzie, Mavera, Paola. I was riveted just listening to you all. Thank you, Annie. This is reminiscent of teenagers. Yes, teenagers and young 20-somethings 100 years ago, 112 years ago. Talk about claiming a space where you don't really belong. They went out on pickets, out on strikes, and they got their ribs broken, and they got thrown in jail with prostitutes. These were women, these were young girls who were trying to say something. These are not safe conditions in these factories. We've already seen fires. There have been many injuries, the sexual harassment. This is not okay. So they all gathered at Cooper Union Hall. It's a big hall in Lower Manhattan in New York City. And all of the men were talking. Famous labor leaders were there, and Samuel Gompers, you maybe have heard that name. They were discussing the merits of maybe going on strike or maybe trying to negotiate. And, you know, there was a lot of waffling. And a young woman got out of the crowd, a young immigrant woman. Most of these women did not, young, I say women, you know, they were working in factories. They were 12, 13, 14, 15. They were children. They should have been in school. They were working at factories 60 hours or more a week. Clara Lemlich, she was 23 years old. She actually had a broken rib, had to be helped to the stage. She had been beat up on a picket line, which was legal to do, but she got beat up anyway. And she said, enough talk. I vote we go on strike. This is nuts. And they did. The place went nuts. 20,000, mostly young female garment workers, went out on strike. These were Italian women who spoke Italian. These were Jewish women from Eastern Europe who spoke Yiddish. They found each other. They spoke Hebrew. They bonded. And so 20,000 of them went out on strike. And so I say, looking at you all and hearing you all, we can do our own uprising. We can say, okay, we can have our own uprising. We don't want that to be forgotten. We don't want to say, okay, that factory burned and 146, mostly girls and women, burned or jumped to their deaths in the Triangle Factory. The uprising wasn't enough to save them. It saved many others, but this is our uprising time. So as Annie mentioned, and I'll put it in the chat, we're building a memorial that will help to remember, but also to never forget, be a part of history. We don't want this to ever happen again. We see it being exported around the world. Rana Plaza was an example of 2012 of young women there who were garment workers and their lives were cheap and disregarded. So we can say something. I heard when you all talked, I heard silence. I heard finding home when you're not at home. I heard claiming a space. I heard strength. I heard bitterness, eating bitterness. Let's find each other. So that's what the uprising, the modern day uprising is all about, and why I want everyone to be able to participate. So thank you, Annie.
Rose, can you put in the chat, how do people volunteer for Triangle?
Yes.
So this is, tell them where it is geographically, because they walk by it every day.
Oh yeah, this is a building owned by NYU. It's a block off of Washington Square Park. I mean, it's a lot of tourists around there when it's not COVID times, a lot of students. It's at the corner of Washington Place and Green Street in the Village, in Greenwich Village in Manhattan. And we would love it if you could join us on March 25th. Annie and I have been out there many March 25th. It's the anniversary of the Triangle Fire that happened in 1911. The uprising was in Manhattan. We can make noise now. And I will put this in the chat. I got to put my glasses on.
What's the call to action? You want people to make short videos? What's the call?
The call to action is twofold. I'm not good with social media, but with the help of Ernesto and Annie, I've helped launch a national grassroots, truly grassroots GoFundMe. I know a lot of people talk about GoFundMes. Oh, I'm burned down on GoFundMes. This is a $5. We just want $5. Really, I don't want more than that. I mean, yes, some people are going to give more, but this way, even school children can participate. Maybe, get their friends together. Each one of them put in $1 and they can put in $5 because, as Annie said, this is a ground up movement. So we're looking for 20,000 people around the country to donate $5. We'll get to 100,000 by the end of the year. The call to action is also to hold up your $5 proudly wherever you are, where whatever background you want, whatever you want to say. I've got $5 and I'm building the Triangle Fire Memorial. So Annie's got a great video of her doing it, and I think it's on our website, rememberthetrianglefire.org. So I'll post all of that. I don't want to take up too much time.
All right, thanks, Rosie. I love you. All right, let's get Moira Cutler up here. Mackenzie, you got Moira promoted? Let's see if I can help. Let's see. Thanks, Rosie. Rosie, stick around. Let's see, participants. Mackenzie, give me a thumbs up if you, oh, there's Moira. Moira, what's going on? You've been trying to find a new home, right? What's it like trying to find a new home as an older New Yorker? You know, we've been around a long time. Let me see if I could hear you, Moira. Say something. Moira, I could see you. I can't hear you. I don't know. Moira, can you hear me? All right, let's give Moira a minute. All right, let's get Eva Pedriglieri up here too. Mackenzie's going to promote Eva. By the way, Mackenzie is our technical director today. So besides busting out a debut as a singer-songwriter, she's also running tech. All right, let's see who could speak first. And everyone, feel free to chime in. Hey, there's Eva in Calabria. What's going on, Eva?
Hey. Hello from the other side.
So Eva ran tech for the last 12 episodes of Tell Me a Story, and now is in Calabria on a Fulbright. Tell us what's going on.
Things are going well. It's dark really early here now, probably in New York too, but doing well. Yeah. This was a lovely event that you guys put together. Mackenzie, I was crying. Like I was seriously like, oh my God. So I've composed myself enough now. I wanted to share.
Do you feel at home in Calabria? What's going on for you?
Yeah, I didn't really read. I didn't have a chance to read much what this event was going to be about. But as soon as it kicked off, I was like, oh my God. I impulsively just said my name because it like really touched me, and I'm going through a lot. I'm going through a lot with this move. So it was quite powerful and emotional to hear all these stories about home, and especially being a young woman moving to a completely different place for the second time. So the first time I moved, I was 18, and I moved from South Florida to New York City, where I met all these beautiful people. And when I did that move, it was actually, the experience was I all of a sudden became very invisible, which if you move to New York, you kind of realize very quickly how invisible you are. And I actually really enjoyed that feeling. I enjoyed being able to do whatever I wanted to do and not feel so visible right away. And unless I wanted to. So then I started experimenting with being a performance artist and being an artist and doing things like dancing in public in Washington Square Park. So if I wanted to, I could be very visible. But if I didn't want to, I wasn't. And that was really, really an incredible experience. And then it was a huge culture shock to come to this tiny little town in the south of Italy and feel like an alien walking through these streets where I'm completely visible, like super visible, and very much like stirring the pot of this very cohesive small town where everyone knows everyone. Yeah, it's been a bit hard, I'm not gonna lie, but I have a lovely home now that I found, and I've been doing some art. Can you see this?
Hold it up close.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
I'm experimenting with some watercolors, which as a recent performing artist, I had abandoned. So a lot of quiet time at home and a lot of good food and pasta and cappuccino, Annie. But home has been a complicated question for me recently. So my home has been my art sketchbook, as usual.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
So.
All right. Well, we love and miss you here, Eva. So happy to see you finally.
All
right, let's bring in some more voices. Let's bring in Laura Gordian, Fatma Zeb, and Moira. If you're out there, come back. All right, Mackenzie, you promoting people? And then we'll get everyone in here little by little. We're going to bring everyone in. So I'm going to help out with that. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Let's hear
Hi,
from
nice to
you.
meet you all. Hi, I was kind of invited by Paola. We're friends from college. We did our bachelor's together. And I just wanted to say that it's beautiful. Everything that you guys have shared with us, it's been very, very beautiful and very enlightening.
Where are you? And do you say Laura or how do you say your name?
Well, I pronounce it Laura.
Laura, sí.
It's a Spanish way of pronouncing it. I'm in my house in San Lorenzo, Puerto Rico. And yeah, I wanted to share a poem. You've all been talking about the concept of feeling at home outside of your homes. And I wanted to mention about feeling it within our own bodies. How sometimes, you know, when you're depressed or when you're going through a lot of mental struggles, we kind of stop feeling at home within ourselves. And we don't see ourselves necessarily as other people can see us. Suddenly we're broken people and we're not useful, and other people see us as rays of light. And so in a workshop that I attended from Rupi Kaur, it was online, I wrote a poem about last year, a little bit after the beginning of the pandemic. And it goes like this. It doesn't have a title because I am not the best of them, but the poem goes like this. Here lies a broken house made of wood. It's small and has cracks on the roof, with doors and windows askew. No neighbors in sight, and nor doorbell to sound. The inside is dark, filled with cobwebs. There aren't many rooms and it smells of dust, no food in the kitchen or cabinets. Long has been since it was abandoned. The best thing about it is outside. The grass is green and the sunsets are bright. The house is not much, I agree. There's a lot that needs to be fixed. As people leave, they feel sad and a sudden urge to grieve, I believe. Truth is, when people leave, they feel happy. They feel serenity. Apparently, they see all that the broken house could be. That's about it.
Wow. Paola, respond. We got two poets over here now.
I love that poem just because as we've been talking, it's the idea of home. What is home for every person in this room, in this seminar? And the first home we know, it's our own body, and dealing with it and accepting our own bodies. I think it's one of the hardest things to do, because it is your home, it is what sustains you, but at the same time, it's really hard to love and to live inside of it. So it's a beautiful, beautiful poem.
Thank you.
Very profound, a lot of wisdom there. I'm still struggling with that one, that's for sure. Thank you, Laura. Grazie. Stay in the room. Moira, can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
What's going on, Moira? What's going on with you?
Sorry, I had some technical difficulties here. I'm at my sister's house. This is my temporary place of residence. I'm looking for a place to live. And so Annie asked me to write something about home, and I just took it kind of literally, and I just started writing all the places that I've lived. And so I think what I should do is just start reading and set my timer for 2 minutes, because there's way more information than can fit in 2 minutes.
Let's go. Give us a speed read. Let's
go. All right. So this is just after college. Okay, so Guerrero Street, San Francisco. Roommate had 100 small birds in the room with her and got sick from hoarding the birds in her bedroom. You know, all the feathers went into her lungs. Shotwell Street, roommate used me for labor to put down tiles in the kitchen Then after the project, he moved a friend into my room. A speeded out tweaker would come and pound on the door claiming I was spying on him via the back fire escape stairs, which I wasn't. Folsom Street, I was crushed out on my roommate, one of my roommates there. She had a heart tattooed on her neck and she played that song Crazy on You on loop while she was fucking her girlfriend all day, pretty much. Another roommate there kicked me out, claiming a strange tension between us. But as it turns out, instead of paying the rent, she was keeping our checks for herself. She was the sole tenant on the lease. Okay, Lion Street, also in San Francisco. My famous roommate was Rachel Maddow. People ask me, did I see her naked? Yes, I did. I saw her naked. Our rooms were all one big room if you open two French doors between the three rooms. My other roommate walked in on me and my girlfriend having sex twice. Even though she saw us, she would start a conversation. She was homeschooled and not very socially aware, let's put it that way. Sycamore Street, we used to call it Sick More because junkies would hang their head out of our building and puke out the window. We had a rent strike because black mold was spreading on the carpeting in the foyer. And then when we had a gas leak, the super fixed the gas leak with Scotch tape. We called PG&E on them and they told us to call a lawyer and the police because, oh, that's it. That's short. Okay.
Moira,
I should finish this one part.
Yeah, go ahead, Moira. This is a solo show. I want to hear the whole show. Go ahead, finish.
Okay. So they told us to call the police. Okay, so because we were in danger of the building blowing up, so anyway, when we left there after winning our rent strike, my girlfriend said, "Hold on, there's something I have to do." And she went back in with a coffee can full of pennies and dumped them all over the floor of each room so that each room was covered in a mosaic of copper.
All right, listen,
many
this
more
is the beginning.
Places.
And I just, if anyone wants to follow, Moira on Facebook is chronicling the problem of trying to find a new home. I'll just put in my own 2 cents, Moira. As an old school butch, single, middle-aged, and getting rejected by younger roommates. And it's really an odyssey. For New Yorkers to live in New York is an odyssey. And Moira, I want to see the whole show. So stick around, don't go nowhere. Let's get Fatima. And that was a beautiful beginning, Moira. Okay, just begun. Let's get Fatima and Gabriella Belfilio, Rachel Beecham, Sue Prevost. Let's see who else is in the room that's coming in. Audrey, you want to come in the room? Moira, too much. If you could hear us laughing. Rachel Maddow. We got to get Rachel Maddow. All right. Who's coming, Mackenzie? Who's up next? Let me hear you. Talk to me, Mackenzie.
All right, so it looks like Susan is coming.
All right, let's get Sue in the room. Yep. Sue from New Orleans. Gabriella got here first. All right, Gabriella, let's see what you got to say.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to butt in.
No, it's good. Okay. It's good. Quick on the button.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna read a poem. So this is a poem about a much earlier time in my life, because Annie mentioned that there was younger women talking, so it made me reflect a long time ago. It's called 13. 13. Unwrap that miserable time, junior high, friends turning into predators, packs huddled by the large school gate bearing teeth. I wore fluorescent pinks and greens, teased my hair like Madonna, trying to fit in. Barely a teenager, wanting to be all grown, though I couldn't even fill out my bra. Suddenly, girls were expected to do more than kiss, boys placing our hands on their dicks. I pulled away, the paint of shame coloring my cheeks plum, my only thought home. I was more interested in sleepovers with my closest friends. We would talk about everything while gently gliding our fingers across each other's budding bodies, comparing the ripples we felt when we reached low, just past our belly buttons, arriving.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you,
Oh,
Gabrielle.
and like 2 cents, just, I have a 4-year-old and I'm teaching him about the world. And when we cross the street and we see the red hand, the opposite of that is the walking person, because why should it be a guy, right? So let's you know, just promoting, like, not making everything a masculine image. All right.
Thanks, Gabriella.
Yes.
All right, Sue, what's going on with you? Wait, can't hear you. You got to unmute. There you go. Keep talking.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Okay, so I've moved from New Orleans, from the swamp to the high desert of New Mexico. Of Mexico. I'm in another country. And first of all, the show today has really moved me. Your courage has moved me, everyone who spoke. And I just love how all the elements that were discussed here are sort of overlapping and integrating into each other, even going into the uprising of the Triangle Fire, because it takes some security that you have a home, that you have a base, that you have something to fall into after you make yourself so vulnerable. So anyway, I've just really loved everything today, the multi-sensory stuff. And anyway, thank you so much for having me. If I had a title for this thing I've written, it would be Home Shifts. So here goes. Home is a fading charade, a parade of old skin swallowed by the sky, open to those who grow feathers to fly. Home is a high desert succulent and ghosts who followed me across the border to costumes of skulls roaming the flame-lit nights. Home is a multiplex of memory with 24 movies. I pick the one with 3 dogs dragging me outside the swamp of ashes with the same cast of characters. Home is a break from the flushable right, from the threats to my light. Home is a list of another language, 12 kinds of cacti, edibles outside. I could survive for a year out here, even queer out here, so dear out here. That's my home.
Beautiful, Sue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. From New Orleans to the desert, from the swamp to the desert. I got to come visit. All right, listen, Mackenzie's going to lead us in a chant. Look, the meter ran out, Molly. Look, you see, time expired. So I don't have any more quarters. We're going to promote everyone to panelists. And Mackenzie's going to teach us how to say, eat bitterness in Chinese. And then we'll formally close, but we'll keep the room open for conversation. So let's see if I could promote people here. Let's see, Audrey. Mackenzie's helping me. And Molly, why don't you say a few words while we're promoting people?
This has been such a powerful afternoon. I have learned so much from all of you today, and a lot to think about. And thinking about home, thinking about the holidays coming up, and family members who are now sort of scattered in faraway places, but also celebrating nice things. That my brother and his wife just had a baby, so it's the first grandchild in my family's, my nuclear family, and we're all in very different places, but figuring out how to make a home across time and space. And though we can't all be together for Thanksgiving, it still feels like we're creating new opportunities to be able to feel like a sense of a sense of home and togetherness. So that's been on my mind a lot recently, but this has just been really, really inspiring. So thank you everybody for being here.
All right, and listen, let's solve this mystery first. So there, Sonia said something. Where's Sonia? I don't know if she's in yet. Audrey and Gabriella had the same answer, which is a good one. Gabriella, tell us what your answer was.
The key to life is love.
Yes, look at that. The key and the ankh, which is life, and the heart. Gabriella and Audrey got that. Where's Sonia? Sonia, what was your phrase that you came up with?
I think I said the key to life is in our hearts.
There you go. There you go. All right. Beautiful. You're all the winners. Sonia and Fatima, do you guys want to speak? Do you all want to say something?
Yeah, I would love to say something. So first, thanks, Mackenzie, for inviting me. I also go by FA. That's a part of like my full name, FA. And this was just so great. Like, I'm so happy that I came here. I've been feeling not great today, and just hearing all y'all's stories and hearing the poems and the music just makes me feel so good. And it just had me thinking about home. And it's kind of like part of what Laura was saying, which was, I was thinking about being at home in our bodies. But I was more specifically just thinking about connecting to our bodies and feeling that. And I feel so disconnected from that. And I think that's an important part of home, is feeling that connection. And I kind of like, I mean, you don't have to, but I was thinking like, I try to take moments now, or theoretically take moments now to just stop and feel my body and to feel at home in it. Because I don't know how other people feel, but for me, a lot of times I realize I don't feel all of me at once. I'm very numb. You know, I have to actively think and tap in and say, here are my hands, here is my face, here like is my legs. And I think it's important to just stop sometimes and to create that home for yourselves and to feel that connection.
Yes, yes. Let's all take a deep breath and feel our hands, like Sonia said. Let's feel our hands. Let's start there. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much. And I hope to meet you out in the world at Mackenzie's concert in one of the big arenas. All right, Fatima, what's going on?
Hi, I'm quite shy of speaking, so I've been trying to avoid it as much as possible. But I am Mavera's sister, and I'm really happy that we all get to connect and share these wonderful stories. I've moved all my life. I've moved every few years. I've lived in 5 different countries, and home just has to be where friends and family are. And there's so many things that make up home. And I think with everyone's stories and poems and sharing of their ideas, I think it's true to form that there are lots of different things that make up home, starting with your own body, of course. So thank you very much. Really enjoying this. It's very special.
So special to have you here. Mavra, what do you have to say to your sister?
Yeah, I'm really proud of her for speaking, because I know this is a very difficult thing for her to do. And it makes me very, very happy to hear her voice.
All right. What about Maysoon? Where's Maysoon?
Hi.
Hi, Maysoon. How you doing, Maysoon?
I'm good. I'm also here because of Mavra. I'm doing great.
All right, Mavra, greet your friend. Let's hear it.
Yeah, just thank you so much. It makes me really happy to see you guys on this call right now. So yeah, just really happy.
All right, listen, before anyone else speaks, I see Nola, I see Stella, maybe they want to say something. Let's learn the Chinese empowerment phrase. So everyone unmute yourself, and Mackenzie Kwok is going to lead us in a call and response.
All right, so I'm going to type in how you can pronounce "chi-ku." So, all right, repeat after me. "chi-ku."
Chiku.
Yeah, let's do it again. "chi-ku." Yeah. All right, one more time. 1, 2, 3 for a picture. "chi-ku."
And what's the English?
Eat bitterness.
Eat bitterness.
Eat bitterness. Bitterness.
Let's translate that in a few languages. Mavra, how would you translate that?
I don't really know how I would translate that. Kadwa khana, I think. Yeah. Kadwa
All right.
khana.
Paola, how about you? How would you translate it?
Comerse la amargura.
All right. I think we have a phrase in Italian. It's just called agita, which means you have acid and agitation at the same time. Agitare, agitare. It's the two together. When acid and agitation meet, which is basically every family get together. So yeah, I think that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone know Yiddish out there?
No, but
Moira, you got any phrases you can pull out?
Well, I guess like when you feel kind of funky, it's like agita. I guess it's we call it spilkus.
Spilkus.
Like, yeah, like your stomach is kind of turning over, feeling sour, kind of nervous stomach. You know, we have a lot of that in my culture.
All right. All right, listen, we're going to keep the room open and talk, but we're going to formally close the recording and the Facebook Live because